Hello, world. Welcome to my channel, Proteus Augustus. I'm an artist, scientist, and American Constitutionist. Today is December 19th, 2022. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about what I consider to be the Cinderella and the princess complex and the difference between the both. Now, some people may have written about this. I'm not sure. I don't care. I'm talking from my own mind like I always do. But based on my experience and my point of view over time and personal interactions and things of that nature, I see women in two different categories, generally speaking. With respect to mostly, I wouldn't call them borderlines, but 80% of women, I believe, either believe in the Cinderella complex or believe in the princess complex. And the princess complex is the overcompensation of the Cinderella complex. Let me explain. Of course, when I was growing up, there was all kinds of tales and whatnot. And if you look throughout human history, really, young women were betrothed or married to older men. Reason being is that young women are fertile by nature, and it takes men a while to get established, to become gentlemen, right? So that they can be good husbands to these young women who will bear their fruit, right? So along comes the Cinderella story, right? Where she's going to be rescued, right? And she's being compared to old maids, even, stepsisters, not by blood. Again, a distinction there that's being told, right? And how these stepsisters wanted a man, a good man, right? But they were forward and a bit harsh and weren't cultured. And obviously a gentleman can see that these women weren't exactly, quality women. They were older and anyways, so that is juxtaposed against the Cinderella personality, right? So Cinderella is really a good person, right? She has to compete with her older stepsisters who are old maids, and that put her down and make her servile to them, right? And so now the audience is looking at the Cinderella as a person who, deserves better than that, and what in some way or fashion, just based on that dynamic right there. Right, so then along comes the gentleman, right, into the picture. Anyways, you know the story, right? But what's behind the story is that it was trying to enculture women that, to find a good man. And the men in this story were not womanizers, they were gentlemen, right? They weren't promiscuous, they weren't pigs. This idea about men can't be monogamous, I think, is ridiculous. There's plenty of men who have been cultured to understand how to control their temptations for the betterment of themselves and their families. That's what marriage is about. It's a commitment. But anyways, so that Cinderella story creates a complex in younger girls, right? The more that the male cannot meet that gentlemanly nature, right? Women then do understand that it isn't like they have to wait to get that, but the whole story, the whole purpose behind the story, or the moral of the story, is for a younger woman, to find an older established man who could take care of her, who can respect her. And that's the kind of man you want. And in order to get that kind of man, you have to be a lady, right? You can't be these old maids running around just, prancing yourself out there and so forth, right? That's what the Cinderella story is about, right? Well, even in that scenario, some women can form a complex because they're not going to be able to achieve this gentleman ideal as society moved along, right? Women then morphed into what I call the princess complex, right? Now they're the prize, not the family, not the older men, right? They totally put aside their biology, right? Become materialistic consumers now, like the old maids that Cinderella was against, right? Because those old maids, they just wanted the money from the guy. They wanted the power and the stature. And again, I reject the notion that's what all women want. I reject that, right? You know, it's only in narcissistic supply, you know, to take away from Professor Vadkin. You know, their psychological needs, their material needs, right? And that was juxtaposed to Cinderella, who wanted love and a family with a good man who could, you know, take care of her because she's young and she's fertile, right? Right? That's nature. Man didn't create that, but the story more comports with nature itself, because women are better to have children when they're young, even though they might not be the most educated or whatever. That's not the point. The woman has a whole lot of life left to be a lot of things, right? You don't have to give up what you are for that. You know, you just have to plan your life differently than what they're telling you, right? Anyway, so then you get the princess complex, and this is what you see with these young women today. And if you go to some of these women who are trying to at least have a discussion about this with other women, you could see not all these women have narcissistic personality disorder, but they are definitely materialistic, they are self-centered, right? And their entire goal is to elevate themselves in some kind of psychological plane. I mean, it's more of a self-love. It's a more of autophilia, even though it might not present itself sexually. These women like the way they look in the mirror at themselves, and they try to act like they're dressing for themselves, and most of them, in a way, are. All right? The true autophilics. Right? Like that put all the selfies up and everything, all that. They're doing that because it gives them a euphoric feeling, right? The dopamine rush that all these people are seeing them, right? To the point where what some of these people don't understand, and I don't want to get off on a topic, but like what's happening, you know, what happened with Twitter before Elon Musk bought it. You know, these people over at Twitter would take some unsuspecting person, and because the person might want to push this woke narrative or whatever, would create all of these followers for them, right? And some of them went to a conference with all their little doodads and whatnots or whatever, and same thing on YouTube, I think, happens. And nobody fucking shows up, and they might have like 900,000 followers, right? You know, but they get pushed forward because they're being created. But anyways, so the culture over the years, once they said to women, listen, you don't need man, which isn't true. I mean, why wouldn't you want to love a man? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with having a natural life and making a life together? And if it don't work out after a certain period of time, that's fine. But if you got a fucking goddamn alarm clock on it, you know, you're wasting your time. You might as well just have a contract. You know, some of these rich guys, they might as well just get a contract. You got to have a prenup. If these women are not honest and with you, and you can't find an honest woman, and I mean, I don't know, you know, but I'm not in that position. I'm just saying it must be very difficult. But anyway, so the princess complex is now the women firmly believe that the knight in shining armor is someday going to happen, as long as they continue on this path. Right? That, you know, they can go and they can go screw around all they want, and some of them don't even screw around. And they love themselves too much for that. Right? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. right? But it becomes malignant when, they still can't have an affection, for a man. Some women are terrified of men. This is what they've done to women. The chances of a woman being harmed by a man that they don't know is very slim. And if it is somebody they do know, they're making bad decisions about people they are with. And they have to accept responsibility, But the princess, they don't want to accept responsibility for anything because they're the princess. That's the whole idea. Right? They were brought up not on the Cinderella complex, but on the princess complex. See, because in order for them to succeed now, they have to be the top dog. They got to be the top bitch, right? Or some of them, they want to be men, right? They take the worst traits of men, and some men can compete really hard and be ruthless, but love their wives and women. It's just men have to be brutal sometimes, like in the courts or whatever you need to do to take care of your business. That's just, survival of the fittest. It is an expression of our evolutionary process. If women were the more dominant and could operate the environment to the advantage of the family, from the get-go, men would never have been on top. But the thing is, it requires a certain chemical disposition, in order to exercise this force on the environment, especially if a woman is carrying a child for 9 months. I mean, you gotta have, listen, what these people are just, anyways. So, but the princess really believes. And some of these women actually are old, like my age. It's not a problem to put on makeup and stuff and try to make yourself presentable to the public. But then there's women that are haughty. I think that's the word. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they act like, or like they try to hang out with their daughters, and go out and things like that. That's, See, that's the difference between men and women. That's biological, right? A man needs time to develop his intellectual capacity and his strength. You know what I'm saying? That takes a lot of chemistry, a lot of natural chemistry in a person's body, right? And I'll get into how that's being destroyed environmentally in another video. But anyway, so when you compare the princess complex to the Cinderella complex, which one is better? I mean, the Cinderella complex really is more attuned to biological nature, right? And it offers a solution. And a woman, after she has a family, especially now in our society, I mean, when your children go to school, me personally, I want to raise my own children if I ever had them, but I never had them, so, I'm just saying. That's probably not why I never had them, because I could see shit that's happening, man. I'd be in court the rest of my life with the shit they would be trying to do with my kid. I'd have to homeschool them. I ain't going to waste my time sending them to a school that's going to try to dement his mind. I have to develop. It's my responsibility, right? It's a parent's responsibility to develop a child's mind. And if you have a woman who believes that she is the princess, she could never be a mother or a wife, right? At least with the Cinderella complex, young ladies knew that they might not get Prince Charming, but they were being told, listen, there's good men out there for you. Just be a lady, and guys like ladies. Guys might screw around here and there. I speak for myself. I don't know what other men do, but I'm quite sure that I'm not the only man that, would be satisfied with the loving relationship. But, men have to get on with it, and they have biological urges, and that's where your philosophy comes in. Temptation. How do you control temptation, right? I mean, are you going to follow the beast, or are you going to follow Christ, right? The Christ's message, we're all born with the beast. But we have to learn how to control temptations, right? And that's what makes our minds stronger. And that's what makes us more firm on our position, and it's rewarding. You know, when you fight off the temptation, it doesn't mean the temptation isn't there, right? And this is something that women, for some reason, have a hard time getting their hands around, or their brains around, or anything else around. They're very easily tempted into the ways of the beast, into their bodies. You know, the pleasures of the flesh with women, it's hard for them to turn down. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just my opinion, right? They're much more easily, and that's why they want more divorces, right? Men ain't divorcing women. Men don't want all kinds of, you know, once a guy gets a woman and he's happy with her, he don't need to be screwing anything else. Something might happen. You know, a guy might be vulnerable someday and some woman might just give it up. But that doesn't mean nothing. You know, I ain't like that. You know, if I had a problem, I'd tell my wife and we'll work it out and we'll move on to something, or my girlfriend. I ain't gonna, you know, because I don't want that happening to me, because my health is involved. I would never jeopardize my mate's health by screwing around. And that's another reason why you have to learn how to control temptation. You know, and there's ways of doing that. Anyways, so the princess evolved through this feminist culture, right? And that has morphed its way into actually hating men, right? To, I guess, the statistics by every outlet I can, yeah, I didn't really get into it that deeply, but I can believe this. You know, that most of the women are rejecting 80% of the men, right? Anyways, the whole point of this video is I really think that people, this is just another example of how I think people need to be paying more attention, okay, to the psychological ecosystem that we're all living in, because it affects us all. I mean, if women are afraid of men just because they're men, that's not a good thing. And if women and feminists are teaching women that they don't need men, that's not a good thing. And it's not a good thing for men to teach men that they don't need women. That's not a good thing, right? It's not. You know, I mean, it's just, you have to understand these things. And so feminism morphed the Cinderella complex into the princess complex. And the society as a whole, pull them out of the house. They got all kinds of money. They got their dogs. They got their property. And then now they can't have kids. Or it's going to be very difficult for them. And, you know, so now I see some of these young women, you know, that are doing masculine things. And, you know, they want to explore their mind and they want to do whatever it is they do, right? But you don't have to be, you don't have to buy into this culture of baccalaureate feasting, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm trying to be nice, right? I mean, it's not necessary. But if you want to have a child, women have to understand that to be a mother, you have to be with your child. If you don't want to be with a child, that's fine. It's good that you understand that and really be okay with it. Because when you get older and you don't have a child, right, then you will be able to accept it more because you understood the decision you were making when you were younger. It is these complexes that trick women and deceive women, right, into where we're at right now. It's just the bottom line. You know, I mean, how is this being successful for our culture? If women are gonna extinct themselves on this princess complex, because by the time they realize the guys ain't interested no more, right? I mean, anyways, the same thing with single family houses. Single parent households, females, right? Most of the troubled youth in this world, I mean, well, the Western world anyway, I mean, the statistics are there. Okay, I ain't gonna fucking bore you with it, excuse my language. But don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Anybody ever wants me to debate me, I'll bring the freaking numbers and I'll stand right in front of you and look at you in the eye. Right? But don't call me a liar off the bat. But women without, children without fathers is the worst combination of all. With modern technology, especially young men, they're going to try to find a male role model. It doesn't matter how many males are feminized through single women. You know, the men will. I'm one of them. My mother wasn't going to tell me anything. She ain't a male. You know, it didn't matter. She tried to feminize me. You know, I mean, because that's the culture, right? That's what she was told to do, right? You know, but you know, my mother wasn't single long. My mother got married a couple of times. But anyways, the whole point is, it's not about my mother. But what I could say is, my father died, and you know, during the course of my life, without that actual, even if you have a stepfather, when you don't have your actual genetic father, right? It's hard to trust other males because men, that's what men are. Men are a product of being a young male, you know, who doesn't know a whole lot, but learns that he's in competition with all these other dudes for one thing or another, whether it's a freaking chair or you have to decide what you want to fight for, you know, in this world. And women don't understand that's what men have to do in life, because women have, listen, if shit hits the fan, I hope they find a way to help them, because government ain't going to be there to come help these ladies. They've been sold a bill of goods, man. Shit just doesn't show up in the store. People have to work for that. And many women have to work to bring that shit in the store. People work hard in this country, you know? All over the world, people will work. It's just a matter of understanding what we're dealing with. And I didn't mean to go off on that, but, you know, I mean, I am what I am, and I know that a lot of boys that are raised by women, I saw one interview of a 12-year-old who had went to a party and started stabbing other youths, and he was 12. And what it boils down to, beside the fact that I don't believe this child had antisocial personality disorder at all. I think that, again, he's got a mother that's not interested in him, and you could see that at the end of the interview. She could barely put her arms around him like he was a force field or something, right? And she was with another guy. Who knows what happened to his father, but he was looking for some kind of direction as a male. His mother's not attentive. She can't fill that role. Women cannot fill the role of a male. They just cannot. Doesn't matter what they do. It's impossible, psychologically and physically, to be a male role model for a young male child. It doesn't work that way. He'll look for someone else. And so this guy, he goes and reads the Quran or whatever. Now, I'm not an expert on it. I just know what the kid said. I'm not, you know I got my own opinions on it, but I'm not prepared right now to address that. But the bottom line is, this is the testimony of the kid. It's on YouTube. You could find it yourself. I encourage everyone to find it, and if I knew how to put the link on here, I'd put it there. But all you have to do is go to investigations of 12-year-olds, interrogations, criminal psychology, because I study criminal psychology also. But anyway, so this little child, 12-year-old child, decided that because it said on a particular day, according to this Islam religion, that they should slay all non-believers. Now, listen, he'll never find nothing like that in the Bible. Right? I know that. Christ is the template of my soul. But anyways, this is what the kid believes. I'm just telling you what he. So he was looking for that role model. And so he believed that if he went and he did this, that it was going to make him more of a man or something. You know, he wasn't psychologically corrupted in a way that it was hardwired. He was just unfortunate in his environment to have come to this conclusion. He made a mistake, right? And a lot of young men make those mistakes when they join gangs, right? Because they don't want their mother yelling at them. They're going to go hang out with the dudes, man. They're going to do dude stuff. Screw my mother, right? I'm telling you. These women need to understand that. They're not doing young men any good. So 80% of people in prison come from fatherless homes, right? I could go on. Anyways, look it up yourself. It's just a fact. So once you understand the Cinderella complex versus the princess complex, women who are in the princess complex will never resolve, right? Because abutted to that is the idea that they don't need men for anything. Not even to bring a child in the world, apparently. They go to a sperm bank. I heard it all, right? And this ain't a few women. You know, when 50% of women between the ages of 30 and 40 alive today never had children, they ain't gonna. That's a population crash, just like I told you. It's happening all over the world. There's no population explosion, right? This is not. That's a lie, Bill Gates. I'll debate Bill Gates any day, and I'll bring my numbers, because I'm smarter than him. And I'm not grandiose. I just know what I know, right? And that guy, you know, he might be really good. The same thing with Zuckerberg. What a fucking moron. Right? Guys get lucky and then all of a sudden they think they're demagogues. I mean, it's ridiculous what Gates has done. And there's people in this world that want Gates. I don't know why he's not put on trial for these vaccines and things. And I don't know why we're not going to put... That's a whole nother ballgame. Right? Anyways, so... Women have to decide, and they need to understand what the outcomes are going to be for them, and that they might change their minds in the future, right? But that's the way I see it. And I would rather have a woman raised on Cinderella than I would on Princess. You know, because at least the Cinderella story doesn't result in as many complexes as the princess complex, because the princess complex is designed for failure of the family. The Cinderella complex is designed to make a family, right? And that's what I'm saying. So this is just another example of the ecosystem we live in, because all of these people that think this way affect us all in some way or another. And the only benefit is their consumerism, right? If all of these women didn't buy anything, the economy would crash. Guys don't buy all that shit. You know, I mean, so if they can keep women working and keep women into this princess complex and keep putting that makeup on and waiting for Prince Charming, they got just as good as an addict as if they were giving them freaking heroin. I'm telling you. It's as simple as that. Till next time, think free and be free.